This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
This podcast is sponsored by AMG Logistics and in association with the Birmingham City Official Supporters Clubs. I'm your host, Craig Courtney, and we're looking forward to the next Blues game and finding out what our opposition fans think. Sit tight and enjoy the next edition of The Away End. Hi and welcome to another edition of The Away End. I'm your host, Craig Courtney, and I'll be taking you through some questions, queries, updates, and of course, general knowledge quiz, along with what we can expect from our upcoming team in Pompey. So we've not played each other for a while, so it's going to be interesting to see how the team sets up, who we should watch out for, but most importantly, what the fans think. So after a mixed week of results for Blues on the road that has seen us take 3 points up at Preston, but then lose to a solitary goal at Ashton Gate, it's been fair to say mixed emotions. Yet again, Birmingham lose out to a mistake in the team. We go on to have over 65% possession in the game and still couldn't convert anything. And we've been saying for weeks, what are we crying out for? A hardcore striker. But Chris Davies, after losing Ashton Gate, was both disappointed with the results and the fact that a mistake had been made, but also pointed out how, from a defensive position, we weren't too weak overall. And actually, the percentage of possession was really high. However, we all can say possession doesn't win games. John Machino brings his team over to St Andrews at Knighthead Park after a close loss, fair to say, against local Midlanders Stoke City at the weekend, with a single solitary goal also causing their loss. This time, though, probably more disappointingly, an own goal that let it go through. Pompey come to us on a run of form that sees 2 losses, 2 draws, and 1 win in the last 5. So, very mixed. Almost part of the same as Birmingham. We're joined this evening by Freddie Webb from the PO4 cast for Pompey. So first of all, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the away end, and looking forward to hearing from you. So let's start off by saying, tell us a bit about the podcast, what you're about, how long you've been going, etc.
Yeah, hi Craig, how's it going? Yeah, we were chatting just briefly before we came on, trying to remember the last time Pompey Birmingham played each other, because 7 years in League One and then 4 years in League Two. There's put a bit of a gap in between the two teams. So no, the PO forecast has been running for quite a while now. I started joining it. It started before me, but I became a co-host around 2019 or so, before the COVID lockdown. It was in the League One season where Pompey lost to Sunderland in the playoffs of League One, and then proceeded to lose in the playoffs again against Oxford. Then a couple of wretched seasons. Then John Messino became the manager of the club. Everybody thought it was the cheap option, inverted commas, and it's been almost a revelation. Transformed the entire team, won League One as champions, then gone up and had a solid first season in the Championship, especially given the fact that last time Pompey were in the division at that time was 2012. So it was a solid first season staying there. And then, this season it's all about trying to take a step, which doesn't appear to have happened so far, but we'll see. I'll let you know what the fans have been thinking in a little bit.
But I mean, it's fair to say, you mentioned there the period of time it's been since we've played each other. And I think it's hard to believe, really, that we've got 2 such large clubs that have been, separated, especially in the league. So if we go back over the record, 97 games played between Birmingham and Pompey over the years. Birmingham have won 42 of those. They've drawn 25, lost that remaining 30. In the last 5, though, we are seeing 3 losses and 2 wins for Birmingham. We last played each other, and it's funny enough you mentioned the time frames. We actually last played each other in August 2019.
Oh, yes, of course, the League Cup game. Yeah.
League Cup.
Yeah, it was League Cup where it was Jude Bellingham's debut. I remember now. He was 16. Indeed. He was playing up front. which to
Indeed.
me seemed mad at the time that he was playing up front at that time. But even watching him that game, you could tell he was a player. You could tell that
It's
he was
and things
at
have
the
changed
level.
so much, haven't they, since then? You know, you mentioned COVID lockdown and stuff that all came after that as well. And it's yeah, wow, how time flies and things change. Because the last time we played each other in the league at St Andrews at Knighthead Park, and this is the really scary stat, February 2012. That's how long it's been since we played each other in the league at St Andrews. So, boy, things have changed during that time. That game, Birmingham came away with a close knit 1-0 win. But yeah, we hear the demise of both clubs over the years and how things now are gradually improving. When I look back over that, we've had the COVID lockdown, we've had owners coming into Birmingham that were then sent to prison for money laundering. We then got people that come in that said they were going to be the saviours and ended up stripping us of every possible asset that we had. We went close to being in administration and then eventually have come out now. I want to say the victors because we've got fantastic owners in Knighthead who their aspirations are huge. It's not just about the club, it's about the city and how things are going to progress. And as a few of us were lucky enough to actually see and meet in person was Tom Wagner just a few days ago, where he talked about the future of the club, the aspirations around a new, not just stadium, but sports quarter, and how things are going to increase over that time. And it's not a matter of what will happen. It's now when it will happen. And if he sticks to his timelines by 2025, we're going to be sitting 2025 where we are now, sorry. In 5 years' time, we're going to be sitting and looking and going, oh my God, we're in a brand new 60,000 plus seater stadium. We're surrounded by our training ground, a women's purpose-built stadium for those to play in. Our academies and all of our under 21s also playing in the same area and training in the same area, but also hotels, restaurants, offices, new housing. It's just going to be immense. And we're all looking forward to that because let's just say they came with promises and they haven't let us down once yet. So it's going to be interesting. So going into the game then, tell us a little bit about what we can expect from Pompey. How do you generally set up, key players, and of course, as always, where are your strengths and weaknesses?
I was going to say, I was going to interrupt in that slight bit where saying Birmingham slide with people getting arrested and stripping the assets, because yeah, that happened to Pompey a lot during that time. And
Yeah.
talking about both of those clubs in that time will probably take hours. So this season, setting up in a 4-2-3-1 as similar to last season, you've got a solid back four where the fullbacks sort of overlap the wingers sometimes, but not all too often. The main job really is just to be fairly stable and secure. Then a double pivot in front of them, two sitting centre midfielders, one that drops a little bit deeper in between the centre halves if we're playing the ball out a little bit. But this Pompey side tend to mix it up. They don't always play out from the back. They like to go long to the striker Colby Bishop as well. And in general, they're fairly balanced, very mix it up depending on the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
Pompey's away form has been very good this season, taking draws against Leicester, another draw against West Brom. I know they're up the road; they're not the real rival for Birmingham City, but we'll ignore that. And obviously the 0-0 against the Scum, Southampton, which could have been a win. So they'll look to build on that solid foundation that they've got away from home, whereas last season it was terrible. And then they like to have the front four be fairly dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
They'll probably start Colby Bishop up front. He's a real bruiser of a striker. Not in form this season at all. One goal in 12, whereas last season he hit off a little bit after returning from heart surgery. But he will take up the centre halves. He'll create a lot of space for the attackers around them. And the hope is that if he's occupied by one or two defenders, there's space for the wingers and the attack midfielder to bomb on and do brilliant things. And when Pompey get going, the best sort of chances they have is if they win the ball high up the pitch, make 2 or 3, 4 passes into the penalty area, and it's attacker on their own from a low cross, or they've driven around somebody and they have a clear shot on goal. The big thing coming into this game at St Andrews is the fact that Josh Murphy's returning and he's fit and he's going to be starting in this game. Last season, he was arguably one of the best wingers in the entire of the championship. And
Mhm.
probably the only reason why a big club didn't come in was his age, considering the fact that he's 30. Signed an extension this season, had on and off ankle injuries at the start of the season. He played when he wasn't fully fit. For example, he played in the South Coast Derby when he said he was about 75, 80%. Lay off after that. But then he had a spell of about 20 minutes in the game against Stoke. And even though he lost 1-0, you could tell just his creativity.
Yeah.
Plays on both feet, can either bomb it down the byline or cut inside. It doesn't matter which. Can also take the early cross, and his crossing is the big thing. It's superb, and it clears out defenders. And there's a chance in that Stoke game where a young striker, Mackenzie Kirk, gambled into the 6 yard box, the low cross, whipped right in front of the centre half. You know, the sort of cross that's right in front of the centre half, and the striker's pretty much on it. And he side foots it straight to the goalkeeper. Whereas if he just got under it, he would have gone right in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So he's the main player coming into this game, and where a lot of hope is pinned. Even though Pompey have got a lot of creativity on paper, like they'll probably play Connor Chaplin, who's played in the Premier League, a Pompey boy who's come back on loan from Ipswich Town, and you've got Ming Hyok Yang on loan from Spurs, who filled in very well at left wing when Josh Murphy was injured.
Hmm.
We're not entirely sure how John Mousinho is going to shape up his team because he's chopped and changed that front three behind the striker. He might play Yang on the right and Murphy on the left, but Murphy's definitely going to start, and he'll probably play either Connor Chaplin or John Swift, who, yes, sorry to mention them, play for West Brom and then previously Reading. Proper creative player, as you've seen in the Championship over so many years, attacking
Yep.
prowess. He's from the Portsmouth area as well, from Gosport, so another link to there. And he's got that little bit of spark about him, even though sometimes he doesn't track back and intercept things an awful lot. So ultimately, the way this side will want to set up against Birmingham, Pompey will not mind giving you all the possession in the world. And with Davis as the manager, you'll expect Birmingham to have so much possession, especially at home. The aim really will be to just have a solid back four with a double pivot in front that's got that little bit of creativity to start counter attacks from,
Hmm.
and then spring it from there. They're not a side that can just sit with 10 men behind the ball and the striker up front. Pompey can't do that. They're not defensively strong enough to do that. They've never been able to do that. So it'd be sort of a mix of both, where they'll try to win the ball high up the pitch. If they don't do that, they'll retreat a little bit, but leave options further forward,
Hmm.
try and win that ball, and then sprint the counter attack. So that's probably what Pompey will try and do. And it's not as if they can't play some possession based football. Like if you look at the last Pompey away game, which was at the King Power Stadium against Leicester, it was a classic game of two halves. But in the second half, Pompey were able to control the possession against much better players on paper who are paid a lot more than Pompey players are. But they're
Hmm.
able to control that second half, control the possession, create those chances in the wide areas they always look for. So that's probably the biggest takeaway, is that Pompey are a very versatile side. And even though the results haven't been brilliant recently in terms of wins, I think it's one win in seven, I think. The last win was still 1-0 home victory against Middlesbrough at top of the table. Very good. Could have probably beaten Watford at home. That's 2 points dropped, even though it was a 2-2 draw. And then looking at it, it's still a 1-0 win, a 1-0 draw against Leicester. Still an incredibly solid result.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Coventry still, I would be shocked if Coventry don't finish in that top four because of how good they are. Wasted chances. And then at Stoke, it was unlucky. A 1-1 was probably a fair result in that game. But Pompey players didn't create their chances, and it was an unlucky own goal by a young centre half. So the big takeaway really for Birmingham fans is that Pompey are a very versatile side. They'll chop and change depending on the opposition, and are not entirely wedded to a full-fledged philosophy. Like
Yep.
last season, it was very high press, very aggressive, wanted to win the ball all the time. But the problem is, if they did that, they left too many gaps at the back. So a long ball would just cut over everybody, and then we concede. So really, John Mousinho looked to feel out the game in the first half, I think. Keep it nice and tight, try not to concede early, and then see if they can have those period of possessions where they can control the game a little bit in, say, 10, 20-minute spells, or possibly hit Birmingham on the counter attack as well. So that's the style that we're looking at. And key players, Josh Murphy's the big one, I
Yep.
think, at left wing. Other key players, I think Marlon Pack will still start. He's had a very good bounce back season, and he's a sort of midfielder that can hit a ball on a sixpence and be able to switch to play quite nicely.
Hmm.
And then I think Min Hyuk Yang is up there as well, just as a dynamic winger if he starts. So those are probably the three for me to look out for, I think.
Um, where do you think your weaknesses are then? So, I mean, I firstly, it's interesting to hear you saying that you've got a team that he likes to sit back, can absorb, but won't sit back and just go, come on, come at us. Because that's very much what we saw at Bristol at the weekend. You know, that was why percentage of possession was so high for Birmingham, was they could hold the ball. But what you then got was a team just literally sitting back and going, come on, man. You know, and it was everybody behind the ball and then catch us on the counter with a silly defensive error, you know, ball given away in midfield, straight down the wing. Goalkeeper, as he's coming out, slips, opens up the angle, in goes a goal scorer. But you mentioned there, when you know, don't look at a goal scorer sub being prolific. Actually, this kid that scored against Birmingham at the weekend, I don't think he'd scored in, I want to say it was almost 20 games. So there's never, all I would say is never rule out a goal, because I think they could come. But where do you think your weaknesses are?
At the moment, honestly, this season, it's been
Hmm.
the lack of high press forward. I feel like Pompey wants to transition to a different way of playing, one that's more about controlling the game, but without being completely dogmatic. You see so many teams wanting to are wedded to playing out from the back, having 70%
Yeah.
possession at least, trying to do all of that at the same time. But Pompey don't have the players to do that. Still probably in the bottom three or four teams in the championship in terms of finances, in terms of wages and everything. So Pompey are never going to be able to do that. So they're trying to find a balance between the aggressive high pressing football from last season to one where they can control the game still. Because Pompey will probably end up in that mid table where some teams will be worse than them and some teams will be better, and they want to
Mm-hmm.
switch and adapt to that. The weakness has been the front four. With Bishop not scoring a lot, there's a lot of pressure on that front three to try and create chances, and their build-up play is quite slow. So again, we're talking about sides sitting back. If Birmingham's defensive line sit back, they will probably be fine if they're very stable. If they're not always trying to bomb it down the sides and leave gaps, if they're just very stable, then Pompey will be forced into trying to switch the ball from right to left all the time because they like to go down the wings.
Yep.
They'll try and switch it to both sides and then hit in a curling cross or something. So the way to mitigate that is to essentially sit on Kobe Bishop, pull his shirt, put two defenders on him. No, you laugh, but it is championship officials who will let that sort of thing happen.
Oh
They'll let the
God, yeah,
shirt,
they're
they'll let the
atrocious.
shirt pulling go. They'll let the two hand pushes go, and that goes for every single team. So ultimately, if it's going to be officiated like that, you have to play to it, can't you?
Indeed.
So if you cut that out, and then if you look at Josh Murphy on that left hand side, possibly double up that side, then you'll be able to nullify Pompey's attack pretty well, I think. If the side is very pragmatic about it and how it's going to go. But if they want to just completely control the game and be on top of Pompey and look to try and do everything in Pompey's defensive half, then they may struggle if Pompey can get those spaces for the counter attacks properly. It depends really. So
It's going to be interesting, because I think the other thing is the fact, you know, Birmingham were 29 unbeaten at home. Um, Lost that unbeaten record to Hull, and on the day just were not good enough. You know, I think we've had two games away from home since then, where we've seen a team that fought for absolutely everything and found it hard to be broken down up at Deepdale, to then being a team that lacked ideas and pushing forwards when we were at Ashton Gate. So I honestly don't know how to call and what the setup will be going into Saturday's game. In fact, I think from our perspective, it'll be very interesting to see how Chris Davies does structure the team, and who ultimately will start. I mean, you can almost say for certain that you're going to see Stansfield up front, and playing in that position. Who he pairs him up with, that's another good question.
I was
We've
going to say,
got
you guys have spent £10 million on Furuhashi, and then you've got other options as well. So there's a
yeah.
lot there.
Furuhashi hasn't hit the ground running yet. I still believe that once he scores one, he'll go on a bit of a run. We've also got Dutch, who now is back fit. He came off the bench at Ashton Gate, not for long, but came off and gave us another option. And then we've got the midfield that is so up and down at the moment. You just don't know where to call it. Will we see Doyle starting, for example, or will he be on the bench again? Will Iwata be in midfield, or will he be sitting back at right back, as we've seen in the past couple of games? So it's hard to predict the rest of the team, but I'm sure on the day it's going to be a great game. And yet again, the record that Birmingham have set and that continues to be set is a sellout attendance for every home game. So going into what is our Remembrance Day game as well, which I know Pompey fans are very passionate about, Birmingham exactly the same. We will no doubt have an impeccable silence at the beginning, and looking forward to a good game. So interesting the way that you're going to be set up, and it sounds to me as though we could be in for a very open game, as we have seen in some of ours in the past. But we've also had a few players that have represented both clubs, not just represented both clubs, but have transferred between both clubs. And my little quiz is, can you name 5 players that have either transferred from Pompey to Birmingham or from Birmingham to Pompey over the years? And, there are some great names in there from both teams. Some of my favourites are in there. And for me, one particular legend who, throughout the whole of the game has been fantastic is there as well. So it'd be interesting to see who you can name.
Or with even no guidelines as well. Okay, let me have a think. The first player who came to my head, I swear, wasn't very good for us anyway, which is quite funny. And I know he did play for, but I swear he played for Birmingham. Do you remember David Cottrell, the bald Welsh winger?
Indeed.
Yeah, that was one of them. Because the problem is, while Pompey are in League One and League Two, I'm not even sure if there are any transfers or loans between the two. Off the top of my head, so all of it's going to be early 2010s, mid 2000s, and then before that, I think.
We've actually had, a few that have, albeit free transfers. So let's have a look. So we've had free transfers and loan transfers between yourselves. So we had a player transferring from Birmingham to Pompey in the 21-22 season. He's a young player and came to you on a free transfer. Biggest hint I can give is that he plays on the left wing. That was 21-22.
Birmingham.
And prior to that...
Oh, I know. I think I know.
Go on.
Is it Jaden Reed?
It is indeed, yes.
Yes, there was a lot of promise about him, but then he got a horrible injury, and that just completely cleared him, I'm afraid. I believe he's playing in Finland now, I think, off the top of my head.
He was a great prospect, and I think you're right. He had that little bit of an edge, which it just needed somebody to pull out of him, and I think he'd have been outstanding. Also had players transfer in 2018, 2019. As a loan transfer from Birmingham to yourself. He was a left winger as well. And then 2019 and 2020, you had a left back on loan from Birmingham as well.
Oh God, those were the darkish years with COVID, for making me forget about it. Hang on, the left back. I bet he's played. If he's the right player, he's played a lot in League One and League One now primarily. Is it Steve Seddon?
It is indeed, yes.
He was very good for that short time frame when he came in at left back when Pompey was struggling. And then I think it was like a half season loan, and he left again. And I thought, oh, if Pompey could bring him back again, that would be brilliant. And then they never did, and his career dropped off a bit. So that was the left back, and he said the other was a winger.
Yeah, left winger, and that was 2018, 2019.
Oh God, was it a loan or was it a permanent?
It was a loan.
It was a loan.
One of the only players that's got three names.
2019, 18, 19 season would have been second season Pompey were in League One. So it's not the player I was thinking of. I was thinking of Viv Solomon Otterball, but it's not
It
him.
is actually
Oh,
Vissel.
it is. Oh, it is Viv Solomon
Yeah.
Otterball. I was trying to figure out what season it was because he's famous for when Pompey were chasing for the playoffs when we had former Ipswich striker Brett Pittman up front, who could score a lot of goals, but in the most unlikely fashion due to the fact that his run was completely strange. And there was a moment where Otterball was where Pittman was going in almost one on one, and Otterball was on the other side. And everybody just expected Pittman to shoot, which he probably should have done. He squares it to Otterball, and he just side foots it wide for about 7 yards. You're like, oh God! And then that was the period of Pompey not getting in the playoffs that time. So it was Vissam Otterball, Jaden Reed, David Cottrell, and Steve Seddon. Is there anybody else?
Well, you've got, I mean, there are some big names that have been there over the years. Um, so if I go with, well, let's just put out there 2012, 2013, you had a free transfer from you to Birmingham, who was a defensive midfielder. Or we can go back a little bit further. So 2004, 2005, you had a defensive midfielder from Birmingham to yourself who signed for £450,000. What I can tell you about him was not just a defensive midfielder, but he was a World Cup player when he signed for Birmingham. 06, 07, you had a centre forward. It was a loan transfer from Pompey to Birmingham. He went on to help Birmingham get promoted that particular season as well.
Well, the ones from the 2012-13 one, that was when Pompey were in League One and pretty much nearly going bust. So there was about 50 players coming in and out. so that one could be absolutely anyway. What position was that 2012-13 player playing in? Remind me.
Defensive midfield.
Defensive midfielder. Oh God, there's no way I'm going to remember that team. I could barely remember the best players in that team. Because that's what did Birmingham have a phase when their owners were completely dreadful, where there were so many players going in and out you couldn't remember.
We've had many of those.
Oh no, I think I'm going to have to skip 2012-13 because that season's just completely gone off. Oh God, there's no way I'm going to remember that one. But 06-07, when Harry Redknapp was back and Pompey were on a resurgence a little bit, and he was an international player.
He was a centre forward.
A centre forward.
Massive centre forward player. Scored goals at every single club that he played for. And to name a couple, mind you, if I give you these two, it's just going to give
I should know this.
Well, I'll give you the two teams that else he played for. Yeah, so he was at Manchester United.
Oh, is it Andy Cole?
This is indeed.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out because Pompey had a trend at that time of signing like the historic early Premier League strikers for one season. But the first season Pompey got promoted, they had Teddy Sheringham up front.
That is.
Yeah, no. Well, they wanted to play for Harry for a year. That was why. So yeah, it didn't cross my mind that Andy Cole played for Birmingham.
Well, to give you the other names that have been there, so 2012-13, you had both Jake Jarvis and Hayden Mullins.
Oh, of course, Hayden Mullins. I believe I would have got Hayden Mullins if you said an earlier year, because then I would have linked it to the Prem years. But the problem is 2012-13, I thought he would have gone by then, because in that last championship season, I thought he would have just sold everybody. But 04-05, that was Pompey's second season in the Prem, when Harry Redknapp had a fallout with Milan Mandrick and then decided to manage the Scum Southampton for some reason. God knows why. Oh my God.
I'll put you
it must have been a Harry signing.
It was a Lewis Cisse. and he signed for you for
Oh,
450,000.
yeah. Senegalese player
Indeed.
who was the manager of Senegal, who won the AFCON.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then players as well that have just transferred between the clubs overall. So Jimmy Traore, Eric Hesklup. You've also had Andy Goss.
Eric Husklep, he was a very good player in that championship season when Pompey pretended to have money again, but they didn't.
Steve Weekly.
The similar phase when Birmingham went, hang on,
Is
we
it
got money
indeed?
again. We can sign these players. Oh, we don't anymore. Oh,
So you got Steve Weekly, Noel Blake, absolute legend.
yeah, Noel Blake and Billy Gilmore, defensive partnership. My dad always sang the praises of Noel Blake all the time.
Noel Blake is just phenomenal. So it's some great names that have transferred between the clubs. But just before we run out of time, I've got to ask. We go into the game 3:00 on a Saturday at St Andrews. First of all, it's very unusual. So happy days. Sky have left us alone. But what does your head say the result will be, and what does your heart say the result will be?
Oh, 2 score predictions. Wow. Okay. Well, my heart is that Pompey will rebound a little bit because a couple of tough results in there. The front three trying not entirely clicking, and John Messina chopping and changing things a little bit. The hope is that all of them will click and we'll scrape a 2-1 win. But my head thinks that's not going to happen, and it's going to be Pompey games are very low scoring recently. I think it will be a 1-1 draw, and I will be perfectly happy with that result, I think. So that's what my head's saying.
I mean, going into the game, I just don't know what's called, and it is one of those where I think we need to see a bounce back, and we need to see a bounce back of Birmingham that are resolute at home. Back to those days where nobody could touch us. You know, we need to see a change from what we saw at Hull. And we also need to get ourselves back into the winning mentality. So going into the game, my heart says it's going to be hard fought, but I think we'll come away at the weekend with a 2-0 win. And that's both my head and my heart, because I just think we've just got that. We'll have that eagerness. We'll have that fight that we want to see coming from a Birmingham side. And I think from what you've said around the way the team's structure, if we can break down that Pompey attack and just nullify what's going through, which, you know, with Neumann and Clara there, hopefully they will be able to do, then it will be, a victorious game. However, I said that going into the whole game. So, you know, I mean, my predictions are far from brilliant. So, again, it's going to be close, but it's the Remembrance Day game. It's one where is always close to everybody's heart. You know, for anybody that's going, please remind you that there will be that silence before the game. So if you're coming through the turnstiles late and you don't hear anything, don't do the normal, oh, what's happening? Or, woo, look at us. What we actually want to do is stay silent and remember those people that fought for us and to get us where we are now. So, Freddie, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the away end, which is sponsored by AMG Logistics and in association with the official Birmingham City Supporters Clubs. As always, if you wish to join or want to find out any information, have a look at www.bcfcosc.com for further information, or reach out to the leader in your local area. But Freddie, thank you very much again for joining us. Here's to a great game at the weekend. I wish Pompey all the very best as we move forwards throughout the rest of the season. However, as always, have your worst game on Saturday and an even worse game when we play you at your place later on in the season. But thank you very much again for joining, and here's to a great game. And I'll sign off as always by saying, keep right on.